And as an entrepreneur, you've always got all these ideas and you want to make 100 things. But again, what I've learned through my journey is you have to focus. So look, I think it's also about listening, not going in with a preconceived notion of this is what I'm going to do. Um, and then the consumers were saying they couldn't find a cheese. So that's when I brought on, you just have to keep innovating, getting better, and keep going out. And I think, look, that it also takes money. I mean, look, like anything, you may have a great idea, but if you don't have your finances at least semi lined up, you need to get them lined up. But it's the same situation of, well, you have to have the orders before I can get the money. And, you're always, you always got to kind of be one step ahead and figuring out what's my next move, because once you're here and ready, you got to pull the trigger. And a lot of times, look, somebody's not going to wait. And I think like a lot of people, there's times you get close to maxing out your credit card. You leverage other assets you have. Look, like I said, I'm 59. So it's not like I'm 20 with nothing. I've got a house, I've got an office building, I've got things. And I think you're going to have to be willing and ready to make those decisions. 4.5 months into the contract that we had, they decided to pull product off the shelf. And, we didn't see that coming, like not at all. Things are never as good as they seem or never as bad as they seem. You can't get too high and can't get too low. You just got to keep fighting.
Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the Construction MF'ers podcast. I am Scott Peper, CEO and founder of Mobilization Funding. And today we're going to take a little turn out of construction. We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about plant-based food and cheese. I have an expert here with me to go through that. Think about manufacturing. If there's not an industry that's as tough like construction, it's got to be one like manufacturing. And coming out with plant-based foods into that market, into that hot segment, I got a great guest here, Doug Kantner. He is the founder and CEO of AME Nutrition and Never Better Foods. And he's going to tell a story today about bringing this product to market, getting them into retail. When do you go into retail versus selling on your own? What's the best place? And I think you're going to find some cool, interesting ways that they found to penetrate the market that I am interested and excited to talk about. Doug, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Scott. I'm glad to be here.
Welcome.
I'm glad to talk about exactly what you said. I've been an athlete. I've been involved in health and wellness my entire life. Played all sports in high school, ended up playing college football. I went to the Naval Academy for 1.5 years and then transferred to UPenn in Philadelphia in the Ivy League, finished there, and then have just continued to be involved in health and wellness and exercise. And as we all know, diet is at least 50% of health and wellness, because if you only exercise and you're not eating healthy, you're only doing half the battle. So glad to be here and talk about this.
Me too, man. I mean, look, food's one of the most powerful drug we put in our bodies. And so sustainability, nutrition, I agree with you. I think it might even be more than 50%.
I think you're right. I'll have to look that up for the next time we talk, and I'll let you know. But you're right. It's a large percentage because there's a lot of people that exercise, go to the gym, they walk, they jog, they run, but then they're not eating healthy. And look, it's also not just our outer physique. It's also our heart, it's our lungs, it's our joints, it's the inflammation in our body. And that's where, eating plant-based can help.
Mm-hmm. I had a trainer in college, told us all the time, he said, listen, boys, doesn't matter what we do in this gym, but I can't outrun your mouths. So you need you guys eating and eating the right foods.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
He was right.
It's stuck with me ever since. So what are the products? Let's go through the products at Never Better Foods. What are all the products?
Yeah. So we're doing plant-based cheeses.
Okay.
We're doing cream cheese, mozzarella, cheddar, Parmesan. And then within cheddar, we have shred and sliced. We also then have taken those cheeses and we've made a plant-based ravioli. So we have a 3-cheese ravioli. Then we have a chicken ravioli, which we're using pea protein as the meat source, and then our cheese. And then we have products in development. We've developed a mayonnaise. We've developed a sour cream. We have developed a burrito. but you have to focus, right? You can't, and as an entrepreneur, you've always got all these ideas and you want to make 100 things. But again, what I've learned through my journey is you have to focus and then pick that. So we've picked, really 5 cheeses that are basic. And our cream cheese is probably could be the hero product. However, the mozzarella and cheddar between pizzas, quesadillas, tacos, I mean, that's a big market.
Yeah.
So, and look, and there's again a lot of product out there that's not good. It doesn't melt. You make a pizza, it looks like you have hash browns on the top of your pizza. Our cheese actually melts. It actually tastes like. So being in the dairy industry for 30 plus years, I mean, I'm now 59 years old, and I started in the dairy side of the business. So we know what cheese should taste like. And that's why, we're not just targeting the vegan market, which is a market and it's a viable market. And we're happy to have, vegan clients. But realistically, about 76% of people want to add plant-based. They may not want to eat it every day, but they may say, hey, 2, 3 times a week, I want to eat it. And or, hey, if it tastes the same, it's better for me. So and in some cases, we can have the argument of are plant-based foods better, healthier for you? And I think meat does have a little bit of some challenges. Um, as well as ours, because we're constantly working to make a better product, and proteins are low but no cholesterol. So no lactose. So if you are lactose intolerant, you can have our plant-based cheese. And then also you know shoot, I lost my train of thought.
No,
um
you're good.
I forgot what I was talking about, but
You had said if you're lactose intolerant, you can have the plant-based cheese, and then
oh yeah, and a lot of people are again, a lot of people for sustainability. Look, there's a lot of reasons why people are gravitating and this market is growing. It could be you do have a health issue, or you're lactose intolerant. Maybe sustainability is important to you, and it's becoming important to everybody. Maybe animal cruelty is a reason for dairy cattle or whatever it might be. So there's a lot of reasons why, and we're not just focused on one reason. I mean, whatever your reason is, we're happy to have you in the family that we can provide you, the product that you're looking for.
yeah. So tell me, what's been the biggest struggle for you as a business, as an entrepreneur, the business of, delivering this cheese to market and wherever that may be? What has been the biggest challenge so far, and how did you guys overcome it?
Well, even though it's the beginning, I still feel that this is the beginning of plant-based. It's like everything. There's brands that have been around for 10 years, Dia, Violife, and they have deep pockets. So, look, even, and I see this at trade shows, or I go out, every trade show, there's 3 more new brands. And sometimes I'm even thinking to myself, though, like, man, this was a tough decision for you to spend $10,000 to come to the show, because I'm not sure your product's really ready yet, that it's good. So I think it's being that David and Goliath, where, look, there's established brands are out there. They're not good. And I don't mean disrespect to the big brands per se, but it's like, it's not, that's one reason we've made this cheese. The cheese is because I started with the plant-based meat, as I said, and every time I would do a demo, and we weren't doing burgers and chicken nuggets, because you have Beyond and Impossible and Daring. You're not gonna compete. They have too much money. We were doing raised too much money. We were doing crumbles, so we were doing tacos, pizza meat, stuff like that. But everyone would always ask me, "Hey, this is nice, but do you have a cheese?" Because we can't find a good cheese. So look, I think it's also about listening, not going in with a preconceived notion of this is what I'm going to do. Um, and then the consumers were saying they couldn't find a cheese. So that's when I brought on somebody on the team that had been the head of innovation and R&D at Chobani for 15, 18 years. And we started creating products that it tasted like and or functioned like what you were used to. So look, there's a challenge when I'm going into a university. And again, since we chose universities, it's almost you have to go down 3 paths at one time. You have to get the client to accept your product. And then the question is, well, where can I get it? you have to get the distributor to accept your product. Cisco's, US Foods, Benny Keith, could be a regional person. They're like, okay, who wants your product? But it has to be a certain minimum. I'm not going to bring in 2 cases because I don't have space in my warehouse. And then specifically where we're at, you almost then now you're talking buying groups, Sodexo, Aramark, Food Buy, those type of people. So you're kind of fighting 3 things at one time, and it can get challenging. And there's a lot of no's that you're not ready. Well, I need you to be in Cisco. Cisco's like, well, I need the anchor customer and or enough customers to bring you in, and you just have to keep going back at it, and convincing, and getting another university or another restaurant to take you on where you get that case. Then you're back to the distributor going, hey, I've got this guy, he's got 5, and they may move the goalpost, say, well, 5's really, like, that's really not enough. You really need 8 cases a week. So you're constantly, but then it happens, but you can't give up. You just have to keep going.
Do you feel like there's a lot of there's a lot of customers, potential customers out there that are looking for cheese or they're looking for plant-based? And what I mean by that is there such a, is it harder or easier because there's less competition in the plant-based market than there is in the dairy market? Does that make it easier? Or is it almost like an adjunct product, like you're actually entering the market with dairy and plant-based, or has it subcategorized itself yet?
I think it's both. And I think it's harder because, as I said, not only you've got the Dias and the Violites that have been around a long time. And look, people don't like to change. Um, I would say potentially more so on the distributor side, but even when we go into a lot of colleges and universities, they'll be like, yeah, we have to change. We've been using this product for 10 years. I really like your product, but that doesn't mean they're going to change. You have to keep going, as well as, uh, yes, we're competing with dairy and we're not. Like I said, I think people are eating plant-based for certain reasons. They may be lactose intolerant. They may, for sustainability reasons, animal cruelty, whatever, health reason, for cholesterol, whatever it might be. But there's a lot of competition. Like I said, every trade show I go, there's 2 more new brands. And every trade show I go to, a couple of those brands that were there the year before are no longer there because but you just have to keep innovating, getting better, and keep going out. And I think, look, that it also takes money. I mean, look, like anything, you may have a great idea, but if you don't have your finances at least semi lined up, you need to get them lined up. But it's the same situation of, well, you have to have the orders before I can get the money. And, you're always, you always got to kind of be one step ahead and figuring out what's my next move, because once you're here and ready, you got to pull the trigger. And a lot of times, look, somebody's not going to wait. And they need to know that you can deliver. So especially as a newer brand, they know Dye is going to, if they place an order for whether it's 5 cases or 5,000 cases, they know the product's going to be there. So as a new brand, that distributor and or customer wants to know that they place the order, you're going to be able to deliver, because they have a customer, whether it's their student, whether it's the customer coming into the restaurant. So you can't, like, say, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, and they place the order and then not deliver.
Right. So let's talk about that, because how you capitalize the business, financing orders, financing the business in general is a thing that's very common. We talk to a lot of business owners about on this show and podcast, because, look, construction is a very tough, difficult construction cash flow cycle.
Yep.
But so is food and food service delivery, because you have to carry that inventory.
Yep.
No one wants to wait for the inventory. It has to be
Yep.
kind of on time and in real time.
Yep.
So how have you guys, and then you have a ton of R&D in your product too,
Yep.
and so how have you gone about capitalizing the business in the last 3 years and now executing on your plans to get these products into the places you want to get them into and the opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, first, we already had an established business, AME Nutrition, that had been in business for 12 years. So I had a team in place, and we did that on purpose. We didn't do a startup even specifically because I'd done a startup aside from AME, pre-pandemic. And in today's market, it's really hard to raise money if you're a startup. Look, when I started the other startup, you could go to somebody with an idea even and say, "Hey, I've got this great idea. You test my sample, and you'd get 10 million. I'm making this up. You get $5 million, $10 million. Today, you have to be a business that I'm not saying everybody, but most times, or unless you're willing to give up most of the equity in your company and things like that, and most entrepreneurs are not. So look, ourselves, we had a company that was established already, so a team in place, not everybody that we needed, but a basic team. We had, people in accounting, people in customer service, people that could fill out the documents from the suppliers and the customers. Secondly, I've used a lot of my own money, and even financiers want to know you're willing to put your own money in. And I think, like a lot of people, there's times you get close to maxing out your credit card.
Mhm.
You leverage other assets you have. Look, like I said, I'm 59, so it's not like I'm 20 with nothing. I've got a house, I've got an office building, I've got things, and I think you're going to have to be willing and ready to make those decisions to get that. And then we've worked with, finance companies such as yourself, where if we get that purchase order and we don't have the cash, we'll be able to leverage that purchase order. But even there, look, I talked to 4 or 5 companies. We had SBA loans already in place, which makes it even more like it's never easy. There's never oh, this is what you do. I think you just always have to be ready to, look at every angle, leverage every network that you have. Like I met your company through someone that I was doing business back in 2009 when there was the last crisis. I mean, again, showing my age and as an entrepreneur, but we went through some difficulties in 2008 and 9, like a lot of people. Ended up working with some people. But I think with finance specifically, you have to be ready to pay it back. Like,
Yeah.
like I had a $19 million line with Wells Fargo, and it cost me my whole business, but they got paid back. I ended up having to sell factories, and one time I had 5 factories. I ended up selling assets pennies on the dollar. I mean, we all know what was up with Wells Fargo at that time. We didn't know it now. I mean, sorry, we didn't know it then. We know it now. They were having their own issues. Um, that's what I'd also say, even with financing. I'm more of a proponent of working with people that slash and or a regional bank versus going to the Chase. And we work with Chase too, by the way, but I would say a Chase, a Wells Fargo, they don't care. You're a number, and it's a very simple calculation. And they don't like startups, by the way.
No, they don't like startups.
Uh,
So what's your plan for the next 3 years? So what's the goals of the business? Where do you want to be? What are you going to do?
So, I mean, our projection right now is that we will double our sales, which is aggressive, each year for the next at least 2 years. Um, but for the first 3 years, it's been pretty flat. Like, it's been, like I said, because there's a lot of foundational work you have to do, and that's where you have to be ready to sacrifice even financially for yourself. Like my first time around, it was easy. I wasn't married. I had no kids. Now same thing. It's a little more difficult. 2 kids that my oldest just graduated from Michigan. My younger one is a junior at NYU. Those aren't, cheap universities and
No, you picked
expensive
two of the most
universities.
expensive.
But look, I'm also a big believer in education. Like I don't think everybody has to go to college. It's not for everybody, but if you do have that opportunity, you can do it. It's also not about the classes you're going to take. It's about people you're going to meet, and you're going to meet really great people from University of Michigan that become lifelong friends. NYU, she's studying theater, so it's a great school for theater. Um, but my point is, like, I had to think about other people, and there's been times now that we've had conversations that, look, like they've always had certain things. And there's been times now when I've been like, I'm sorry, guys, like it's a tough time for dad.
Mhm.
But I think the good news is, it's everybody right now. I think this just the economy we're living in with inflation, with that. But, you just got to keep fighting. I'm always a believer too that, it's that person that's ready to keep fighting when you think it's over. You know what? And you give up. If you just could have hung on another 30 days or 60 days, even though it seems like a long time, it's like that big PO's coming, or, there's a big breakthrough. Your competitor couldn't deliver and you have the, or, you have the inventory.
Yeah,
So
just survive.
you have to be able, you have to have that survival instinct and to fight instinct, to keep
What's
going.
what's one surprise that you've uncovered in the last 3 years on this journey that you weren't expecting, that was really just a surprise? It wasn't anything you've dealt with before. It was a surprise. And obviously you made it through it and you keep moving, whether it's good or bad.
Well, it
Or
occurred
think
actually.
about, if someone's listening to this right now, they're thinking, wow, man, wonder what might be in store. Maybe you save them a story.
Yeah, well, it actually happened while I was working with your company. I mean, very reputable, and still reputable, one of the largest retail chains in America. Had a 2-year contract, and that's why I say too, look, things are never as good as they seem or never as bad as they seem. You can't get too high and can't get too low. You just got to keep fighting because you know, again, and I would still say reputable retail chain. We had a
Hmm.
2-year contract. We were feeling pretty good about ourselves. They had tried the plant-based cheeses out there. They chose ours. Well, they already had one on the shelf, which was nice. So we already had a good idea what's the volume going to be, which was a nice volume. They're like, wow, your cheese blows ours away. We're doing a change, et cetera, et cetera. 4.5 months into the contract, that we had, they decided to pull product off the shelf. And, we didn't see that coming, like not at all. The only thing I would say is I think we do a pretty good job of monitoring data. We could see that the sales, again, since it was only 4.5 months in, we didn't really have a lot of data because that initial fill is normal and it was good. And, first fill through, boom, boom, good volume, took a loan out to do it, paid off the loan, but let's go for the second round. New orders coming in. Let's get a second loan going. And then, 30% into that, 30, 40%, we get a phone call. Hey, we have to have a meeting tomorrow. And you're kind of like, this is strange. And they're like, we've decided we're, going to stop selling the product. And again, you're going, wait a minute, I've got I'm not saying this to them. I mean,
Yeah.
what you learn is, especially the big company, like if they say this is it, it is. Like, yeah, could have we fought it? Could have we gone to, did I have a signed contract? Yes. I would say that's one thing I learned too a long time ago through my journey is, you're usually better off just taking that first option and not fighting in court, and because you're going to end up spending probably more money. And even if you think you're going to win, it's 50-50. There is no
Yeah.
guaranteed win in court. So I was like, look, I thought, well, the thought crossed my mind for about 2 seconds of, well, should I fight this? And then it's like, no. Um, One thing, who's to say this that doesn't come back? And they'd even told me, they're like, we love your product. Who knows if it's true? If we bring it back, you're our first phone call. So I don't want to burn the bridge.
Yeah.
B, these people at this company, because look, you learn in life, people change companies. And this
Yeah.
person that's at this company may be at this other company. So I'm trying to maintain that relationship. But it was hard. I mean, and we were sitting on a ton of inventory, and we had to come up with some very out of the box thinking, and I even present to them, which they accepted, to get that inventory. Look, we still lost money. I mean, we didn't come out whole. It caused relationship issues with people that produce for us. Um, Luckily, I've worked with a lot of people in the industry that it's not like it wasn't a deal breaker and it didn't kill the business. I mean, it could have. I mean, that could have been it could have made a major, and especially if we would have been stuck with the inventory. I mean, we were talking, almost $300,000 worth of inventory that I'm hearing, hey, we're not taking anymore. And oh, by the way, even if I look at my numbers, it'll take us, X amount of time to get through this, blah, blah, blah. So.
So what was the ultimate solution? What'd you ultimately come up with?
Well, we actually ended up donating it. They ended up donating it, because and you're always looking for solutions. And I was reading on the internet how this particular company was also, and it's true, they do a lot of very good community work. So it's like, well, wait a minute, let's take this product and give it to these underserved communities and these other things. And I mean, that's just how we ended up making that work.
That's good. So, Doug, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about next is thinking about the business here. You've gotten it out in the open. You got a channel. You're going to start doing some more of your own direct to consumer. And you've kind of gone through that phase, like kind of that first like shake of the box, I like to call it, right? And
Hmm.
now you've obviously weathered the storm and you survived. You got you're equipped with some new tools. And now you're going to enter into the next phase, right? You know what
Yeah.
you know what you
Yeah.
don't. You know a couple things now that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
What's the strategy to make sure that you can execute on that? How do you take that information, those not even a misstep, but those lessons learned,
Yeah.
put them back together, get yourself back together, create a new plan, and build forward?
Well, first of all, you're going to always make mistakes, and there's something else is going to come up. Look, we haven't necessarily even made it through right now. I'm not going to say yeah, we made it through that issue, but we're still living in an economy that, our other business, our ingredients business, which we thought was going to come back in Q4, it's really looking like it's coming back mid Q1. So we're doing all of our planning back in, and we already knew Q3 was not going to be good back in March and April because our customers were telling us, again, we are now, it's crazy, just ending. I think we're past the pandemic, but last year we were still living what we call the kind of a pandemic hangover of, we have an ingredients company that we supply a lot of brands ingredients. Well, they were taking anything they could get. And, the fact is, pandemic was the best we'd ever done because they would take whatever they could at whatever price until they couldn't because prices got too high. Consumers pushed back. They're like, we can't afford this anymore. And look, we're dealing with this right now. We're seeing, the $5 value meal come back at McDonald's, which it was $9 to get a burger and fries, which isn't healthy for you, by the way. So when you're paying $9, that's why we're like, hey, we're in a good space because, we're providing healthy food. Um, but I think you just have to look at those mistakes and what do they say insanity is? It's repeating the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
That's right.
I think you have to kind of look at it. Look, I was already hesitant to go into that retail space, but I looked at it as a learning opportunity because we are focused at Never Better Foods on food service, universities, hospitals, restaurants. Um, it's kind of made me think, backing up the retail, maybe even a little bit longer, because I really the way I looked at it too, I had zero risk, right? But there's no such thing because it wasn't my brand. I wasn't paying the slotting space. I wasn't paying marketing. I'm making product and putting it in their label and it goes on the shelf. Um, so I think the retail business is tough and you have to have people um, and we have some people, but again, our team is probably strengthened with food service because again, it's always about putting the good people on your team. I've got the head of food service. He was head of food service at Follow Your Heart. A couple people from Chobani. So we know retail. Um, I think our lesson is we're going to focus even harder and make more of a focus on the university and hospital. And we're starting to see that domino now. Like it's taken us, like I said, 2.5 to 3 years to even get there. But I would say even in the last month, we're starting to see those, universities and things. And you have to have champions. You have to have people that believe in your product. And we happen to have that at the University of Miami of Florida with an executive chef there, um, Scott Emerson, and at NYU. I just did an event at NYU for sustainability. And executive chef Tatiana Ortiz was like, I like your stuff. I need, how do I get going? And so you have to get people that are willing to pull you through too. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just all on your own. You have to get people. So, that's where we're
Well,
at.
I'm gonna switch gears on you now
All
and
right.
ask you three questions. We like to call it our little rapid fire questions, and then get an idea from you. I'll ask a question. You tell me the answer that first comes to your mind. All right.
Okay. Okay.
All right. On the topic of business, what's the best advice you've ever received?
To focus.
Good. I like it. Yeah, being too much to too many people is never a good solution. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, on the last startup, we were trying to do retail, we were trying to do food service, we were trying to do, this product, that product, the other product, and you have to really focus in on a couple products, a couple markets, and things are always going to try to pull you away. And
Mhm.
you just got to maintain that focus and say, no, this is our plan. Doesn't mean we're not going to do that. It's at another time. We need to focus and do this very well. And then the next thing.
Yeah, you don't need to be everything to everybody. You're right.
No.
What's the best business book you've ever read?
Well, I've read a lot. I mean, I read a lot of books and I read a lot of autobiographies, biographies, and then, books about businesses and, just looking at their trajectory and then the self-help books. But I would say probably one of the best books, it was hard to put down, was the Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. Just fascinating it seemed like it was an unvarnished, version of Steve Jobs and his story. And then another book I read and I continue all the time is Art of War. And I think that was just, I remember watching Wall Street when I was in high school or whatever, and they were quoting Art of War and business and
Yeah,
Gordon
me
Gekko. And I'm
too.
like, so I get the art. But it's one of those that's very good. You just kind of continue to read it, and go back and pick
Yeah,
it up
you pick up a
again.
new nugget out of that book every
Exactly.
time you get it. No
Yeah.
doubt about
Yeah.
it. What do you think is the most underrated skill you can have as an entrepreneur?
Ooh, an underrated skill. Oh, well, I think the skill of just to keep fighting. I think a lot of people give up, and it's really well, and that's, I think you learn that because I was an athlete in high school, college, and you just got to keep working and fighting, and whether it's the game, whether it's practice, whether it's training, um, because just like a game, a football game or a business, like it's always from at the kickoff or your launch of your product, it's never going to go the way you think it is. You've
Yeah,
got your execution plan, but you got to keep fighting. You can't say, yeah, I mean, and look, it's a skill that not everybody has, but those that have it, like that's an important skill to have and to just keep fighting.
I think it's important that you point out that you answer that question that way when I asked you what the skill was, because it is a skill. Just not quitting is a skill. Like it's
Yeah.
just, just I'm not going to quit.
Yeah.
And that's a skill and an attribute that you can develop over time on a daily basis, just doing what you say you're going to do and
Yeah, I
stick
mean,
to it.
look, even it's probably a skill that I don't know your business or your mind of business, but like, look, when you're giving money to somebody, you want to know they're not going to give up because whether you're giving them $2,000 or 200 or 2 million, you got to
Yeah,
know that you know what, something's going to come up, and I got to know that this guy's going to fight or this person is going to fight, and and then we do the next deal.
100%. That's
Yeah,
very much.
yeah.
So, Doug, where can people find you and Never Better Foods? If they're where can you buy the food? Where can they find you to connect with you on social media,
Yeah.
LinkedIn? What's the
Yeah.
best?
So on LinkedIn, Douglas Kantner. But then the company, we also have LinkedIn, Never Better Foods. Same with Instagram. We're at Never Better Foods. Our webpage, neverbetterfoods.com. You can find us on Amazon. You may find us in restaurants and colleges, universities. We're going to start doing some branding products. Unfortunately, per se, we're not in stores yet where people can go buy it in stores. We will eventually, and I think even maybe a next step where we say focus is, we're not going to be in the Whole Foods, but we may be in like a local market soon. But again, right now you could get our products on Amazon.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming on and telling your story, sharing a little bit about yourself and the journey. It's a great, refreshing it's just a great refreshing experience when people are candid. Let it be known. Like this isn't just some easy thing where you create the LLC, get a little
No.
bit of money, and next thing you know, people are just handing you orders because your food's so good. You get the best product on the earth, it's still not going to be easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, and thank you, Scott, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome, man. Listen, everybody, if you love this show, if you love this episode, please share it. Let's help Doug out. Let's get the word out. If you're into plant-based foods and you want cheese, especially cheese that melts, which certainly seems interesting to me every time I want cheese, I would help them out, support them, and let people know we exist out there and share it. And if there's anything we could do for you all, please give us a ring. In the meantime, God bless you all and have a great week.